Marsh Farm was built in the 60s, and the house we're in now, Marsh House, was the original farmhouse for Marsh Farm when it was a farm. So tenant farmers lived here. We got documentation going back to the 1800s with a couple called Jeremiah and Anne Smith who used to live here. They used to be the tenant farmers. And you can even go back further than that to 1646, where someone called Jonas Briggs was a landowner here and the tenant farmer. So it's got a rich agricultural history. So I think that Luton's bad name, bad reputation, has got some merit in terms of the housing issues I'm talking about. But culturally, spiritually, home-wise speaking, it's just rubbish, really. It's one of the best places to live. I think it's doesn't reflect the real Luton, for sure. The real Luton has some amazing attributes to it. The multiculturalism of Luton is one of its treasures, in my opinion. So in Marsh Farm, where I live, I think there's 66 different languages spoken in just one estate of 4,000 households. So that shows you a real diverse mix, like a melting pot of cultures and all of this. So that's one of Luton's beautiful parts, is its one love-ness, we would call it. Raised all my kids there, wouldn't raise them anywhere else, you know.
But it's kind of, you know, I mean, the physical realm of Luton ain't great, let's be honest. You know, it's and the nightlife ain't great. But what makes Luton is the people. It's weird. It's always in the poorest places you go. You always find the most sort of generous spirits, if you know what I mean. Yeah. Everybody has to kind of help each other out just to get through life, kind of thing.
Really. How it's changed my life, I suppose, just seeing good-hearted people that still want to fight to support people that are downtrodden and struggling.
I think having something to do in the town, you know, we've seen the impact of austerity, cuts to public services, the closure of youth centres, the closure of, you know, the cutting down the hours of libraries, and just having a space like this just makes a difference.
I think more likely in Luton to kind of stand up and do it for themselves than a lot of other sort of places where they kind of just relax and wait for other people to do it.
I remember growing up in Luton in the 90s, and there was such a killer rave scene in Luton. And it was down to the guys from Marsh House. They would put on illegal raves, and we would meet up in Dunstable. We'd all be in our cars and we'd all follow the one car at the front. It was called a convoy, and you'd go around, and these guys would put on these incredible community-driven parties.
So I think if we can bring people together through somewhere like Marsh House and, like, you know, the wider Marsh Farm community, I'm hoping that we can really like push for money to kind of be like invested here, and for us to be able to kind of have ownership of the assets that should belong to the community. So, and I think, yeah, just getting people really kind of involved with their own futures basically, and not feeling like they can have something to hope for. So.
Our engagement with our young people, they are our future. They're the ones who will be the leaders of tomorrow. And by us investing in them, by us working with them, we know that the future is in good hands, because they are the ones who will develop the understanding of taking responsibility for destiny.
The guys that run Marsh House, they're like family. They're very accommodating to us. They're very supportive of us as a radio station. They're very kind to us on a really basic level. So I think, speaking on behalf of myself and as, you know, the radio station as a whole, because of being based here, we've attracted younger presenters and DJs who live in the wider area, especially Marsh Farm. Collaboration between Luton Urban Radio and Marsh House has been invaluable.
In the headlines in the paper, rave stops riot. So that was the first example where we'd showed them that the community ourselves are better at solutions, finding solutions to problems, than the top-down government, the police, the council. It's a community-led thing.
And it's all about bringing awareness to the living crisis that we're all facing. Times are not easy for anybody, especially young families, you know.
I've lived in lots of squats around London. I've done lots of different derelict buildings and venues. So when I moved up to Luton, this was an opportunity to get my teeth into something more permanent and really that's what grabbed me. Is that this once we do it properly, it'll be permanent and it won't go away, and it'll be something that's built for everybody. So that's the general idea. That's what really got me involved in this. You know, so I can go away forever and it will still be here.
And that's one of the things I love about Marsh Farm. Although it has a troubled history, and although we are skin in comparison to Harrow and that, there's a lot of community solidarity. There's a lot of what I'd call healthy self-help. You know, I want to stand on our own 2 feet. I want not to be dependent on governments or councils or whatever. I think that's a really healthy drive that runs through Marsh Farm.
So our kind of ultimate vision for Marsh Farm is really just somewhere where we've got the kind of organisational capacity and the confidence to look after ourselves, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Without just needing to rely on local government or central government or waiting for the cavalry to come in, kind of thing. You know, it's not always going to come.
Well, I'd like to see it, becoming something almost like the Preston model. I don't know if you guys know about that, but where community wealth building is kind of the main approach that they use in Preston to kind of try and keep money locally and make sure that they're really investing into local services so that local people are really benefiting from all the money that's being spent. It's not going out into big companies, it's being spent locally.
Well, I think one thing that we're all pushing for at the moment is community wealth building. Basically ensuring that all the money generated in the local economy benefits local people. So this model that they've had here with this building, where you get a derelict building and you transform it into community use, we want to apply it not just in other parts of Marsh Farm but in other parts of Luton to ensure that, for instance, if there's a business being set up in the town, we want to ensure that they're providing local jobs for local people. If you're a big employer in the town, how much of what you purchase for your business is actually from Luton? For instance, if you're the University of Bedfordshire, where's your furniture coming from? Is it coming from a local supplier? Is it coming from out of town? Where's the money going? So essentially trying to improve the local economic situation. You know, the future of Marsh Farm and of Luton depends on what we as people do.
You know, like I say, you've got fields at the top of the estate. In the summer where you've got corn, beautiful corns grow on the estate and different things there that grow on top of the estate. But the future is certainly bright for Marsh Farm.
How do I think Marsh Farm will develop in the future? Well, with these guys leading the community, I mean, it will just get stronger. They're building such a good community vibe out here. I don't live in Marsh Farm, I live in Hightown, but I still feel so welcome here. And the way that they're building the community, this event today has been offering people advice on housing if they've got unsatisfactory housing or they're having issues trying to get better housing from the council, or perhaps they're in private rented accommodation and they're having issues with their landlord. And people have come here to Marsh House to get advice because they know that they can come to Marsh House. They know that at Marsh House the doors will be open for them to come in. Maybe it's to get advice, maybe it's just to have a cup of tea and have someone listen to you. That's what Marsh Farm do, Marsh House does. It provides advice, it provides a space for people in the community to come and say, like, will you hear me out? Can I like put some of my burden on you guys? It's like, yeah, sure, come in, have a cup of tea.
I mean, it's a constantly moving target, right? There's no end goal. It's, you know, the whole thing about a revolution is it's a wheel, right? So it keeps going. So there's no end goal in sight. There's just a kind of a will to continuously improve. So yeah, so don't be afraid of making mistakes. Is our philosophy, but make sure you learn from them.
Yeah, we've got some troubles. Yeah, we've got a historic background of strife, but I think there's a lot of hope for Marsh Farm to set an example actually in Luton. We are not the problem, we are the Soluton.